What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, May 13th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. We have a 2-game slate tonight. So let's take a look at the point guard position. Of course, the stud on the slate is Stephen Curry. He's got 50 plus fantasy point upside. He's 9,200 DraftKings salary, 200 more on FanDuel. But the point guard that I like a little bit more here on DraftKings, because you're just going to save a ton of salary, and he's got similar upside, is Drew Holiday from the Milwaukee Bucks. Drew Holiday has scored 53, 44, and 46 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 40, and 42 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes, and let's take a look at his last 5. He hasn't scored under 38 fantasy points. That was his lowest scoring game. And outside of that, he hasn't scored under 44. So he's scoring on average 44 to 53 fantasy points, 4 out of the last 5 games. He's playing monster minutes, and he's only 7,900 DraftKings salary. Now he's 1,100 more on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, you could go Drew Holiday or Stephen Curry, but on DraftKings, I would rather take the savings with a guy that's playing more minutes, averaging more fantasy points over the last 5 games. So I like Drew Holiday on DraftKings here versus the Boston Celtics. Now another point guard that I like is Marcus Smart. He's 6,100 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. He scored 28 and 36 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 38 and 41 minutes. He's projected at 30.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. So I like Marcus Smart here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, another couple of value plays at the point guard position. These guys are also eligible at the shooting guard position, and they're both right around the same salary here. So if you're looking for a value play at the point guard position, take a look at DeAnthony Melton from the Memphis Grizzlies. He averaged 24.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He scored 26 fantasy points last game, played 24 minutes, projected at 24.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.9 times value. He's 4,100 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel, and with Ja Morant still out, DeAnthony Melton and Tyus Jones, among others, are going to get more minutes and have the ball in their hands a lot more. So DeAnthony Melton, I think he's going to benefit here tonight. I think he's a good value play on DraftKings. So I like DeAnthony Melton here versus the Golden State Warriors. Now the other point guard slash shooting guard that I like as a value play, this would be a DraftKings value play only. It's Derek White, and he's only 4,000 DraftKings salary. Now he's 1,000 more on FanDuel. He scored 28, 23, and 20 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 34, and 20 minutes. So I like that he played over 30 minutes the last 2 games. And if he can get over 30 minutes here tonight and score 25 to 30 fantasy points, he's going to crush value. He's projected at 26.6 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 6.6 times value. So I like Derek White as a value play here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Tyus Jones, you could certainly go there on DraftKings. He's only $5,700 DraftKings salary, but he is $1,500 more on FanDuel. Now, keep in mind the last two games without Ja Morant, he scored 46 and 37 fantasy points, playing 24 and 41 minutes. So he is the number one guy that's going to benefit here from the Ja Morant injury. Now, you're not getting him super cheap anymore, even though I do think that DraftKings price is still way too low. So I love that DraftKings price at $5,700. But for $1,500 more on FanDuel, he's not a must play on FanDuel anymore. So I like Tyus Jones, especially on DraftKings here versus the Golden State Warriors. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Klay Thompson from the Golden State Warriors. He's $7,100 DraftKings salary, $900 less on FanDuel. So I love that FanDuel price. He scored 27, 30, and 39 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 25, 38, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 34.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. Even on DraftKings at $7,100, that's just about 5 times value. So on FanDuel, where he's $900 less, he's a lock for me on FanDuel. This guy has 40 plus fantasy point upside, just way too cheap over there. So I like Klay Thompson here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, another value play you can consider. This is a sneaky play right here, probably going to have low ownership, but I think he's playing enough minutes where he's worth the risk here. Now, this is definitely a high risk, high reward play. He could totally go out there and just kill your lineup. He could go out there and score 10 fantasy points and just blow up your lineup. But take a look at Grayson Allen from the Milwaukee Bucks. He's only $3,800 DraftKings salary. He's $200 more on FanDuel. Now, he averaged 20.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He's projected at 20.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. Now, he only scored 19, 12, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he did play 29, 28, and 25 minutes. So he's getting the minutes. If he can put up 20 plus fantasy points here, he'd be a great play at only $3,800 DraftKings salary and $4K on FanDuel. So I like Grayson Allen as a high risk, high reward value play here versus the Boston Celtics. Oh, another guy that's high risk, high reward, even though if he's going to continue to play heavy minutes, take a look at Wesley Matthews from the Milwaukee Bucks. He scored 24 and 20 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 36 and 28 minutes. Now, he also played 32 minutes a game before that, only scored 9 fantasy points. So high risk, high reward, not a super fantasy point producer, but if he's going to play 36 minutes, you got to believe he can get close to 20 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more at only $3,400 DraftKings salary and $400 more on FanDuel. I think he's a good tournament play, so I like Wesley Matthews here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics. He's averaged 39.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He's projected at 41.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 8,200 DraftKings salary, 500 more on FanDuel. And Jaylen Brown has scored 48, 25, and 50 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 32, and 39 minutes. So we see he's got that 50 plus fantasy point upside, nearly got there 2 out of the last 3 games. And at 8,200 DraftKings salary, that gives him a lot of upside. So I like Jaylen Brown here versus the Milwaukee Bucks.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the power forward position. Of course, you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's got 60 to 70 plus fantasy point upside. He's 11,900 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel, and he's been playing the Celtics really well. Scored 61, 64, and 78 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 41, and 38 minutes. So I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Boston Celtics. Now, a value play at this position is, well, he's a mid-range play here. Take a look at Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 31.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. Now, he's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.8 times value. He's only 5,200 DraftKings salary, 700 more on FanDuel. He scored 39 fantasy points last game, played 28 minutes. So he might be that filler player after you build your lineup where you only have 5,500 left or something like that. Not a lot of options. So you could slot in Bobby Portis, and he's got 30 plus fantasy point upside, and that's well over 5 times value. So I like Bobby Portis here versus the Boston Celtics. Now, I wouldn't forget about Andrew Wiggins. Although he had an awful game last game, only 8 fantasy points in 19 minutes, I am expecting him to bounce back here tonight and put up close to 30 fantasy points. He's only 5,600 DraftKings salary, 400 more on FanDuel, and he's projected at 29.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. So Andrew Wiggins and Bobby Portis, those are your mid-range plays to fill in your lineup if you only got limited salary left over. One of those 2 guys is going to have a good game, and I would believe that Andrew Wiggins is going to play more minutes here, close to 30 minutes, and I think he's going to have a bounce-back game, but it's pretty much a coin flip between these 2 guys. So I also like Andrew Wiggins here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, moving on to the center position. Al Horford has been killing the Bucks. He scored 35, 49, and 57 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 41, and 39 minutes. He's projected at 34.6 fantasy points here tonight. Now, his salary has come up a little bit, but for good reason. He's 7,200 DraftKings salary, 400 more on FanDuel. So I like Al Horford here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I also like Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies, and he scored 43 and 41 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 25 and 33 minutes. So he's going to benefit from the Ja Morant injury. The ball will be in his hands more rebounds. He's 7,000 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel. So on DraftKings, I would go Jaren Jackson Jr. On FanDuel, I would probably go Al Horford, even though they're both pretty close salary on both sites. So really, you could go either one. So I like Jaren Jackson Jr. here versus the Golden State Warriors. Now, if you want to save some salary at the center position, see if this guy can continue his 2-game hot streak here. Steven Adams from the Memphis Grizzlies has scored 28 and 38 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 21 and 27 minutes. He's projected at 23 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 4,500 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel, so I prefer that DraftKings price, but I think he's a decent value play. So I like Steven Adams on DraftKings here versus the Golden State Warriors. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.